Hollo Café, the next stop for the Art of Culinary Spaces, is a central hub within a vast workplace development designed to foster connection and collaboration amongst employees. Christensen consultants have transformed this cafe into a vibrant space that not only resonates with the aesthetic of the larger campus, but also provides a welcoming atmosphere for workers to gather. Join me in welcoming FCSI member Peter Christensen as we explore the thoughtful elements of this renovation. Peter, thank you so much for joining us today. We're really excited to hear about this project that was featured in the 2024 FCSI Project Showcase edition. We're here to talk, obviously, today about the Hollo Café project at Redwood Life. How did this project come about for you?
Well, interestingly enough, an architect that I do a lot of work with, also located in San Jose, worked closely with them on a number of projects over the years. We did a Google project not too long ago. They recommended me for the project, and as they do with a lot of their projects that involve food service. So we went out there, took a look at the space, learned a little bit about the scope and the programmatic elements that were happening there. And then all went well, and we were hired by the real estate investor team that owns the building, and put to work turning it into the Hollo Café.
So you get hired by the real estate company that's in charge of it. Kind of tell us a little bit about what the project's timeline and budget was at the very beginning, and did that change over time?
Yeah, the timeline was, like everyone else, they wanted it done as quickly as possible. Budget, I don't know if anyone knew, what the ultimate budget would be on that project.
Okay.
Probably, with a lot of the challenges that we encountered on the project, probably more than was initially thought. However, the client was really good and understanding and didn't give us any issues with that. I think they had a pretty good understanding of the challenges of the space, the location of where this project was, and were willing to work to make this project a success.
Nice. Now, a lot of things had to be overcome for this project. So I guess the first thing we're going to talk about with this was this project, the Hollo Café, was built on a former landfill. So reading about it, it talks a lot about the challenges you had potentially for plumbing and drainage and such. Can you tell us a little bit more about that and what you encountered and how you had to overcome some of those challenges?
Sure. It's a business park that is actually kind of out in San Francisco Bay on reclaimed land. Landfill, as you said, Wade, is kind of what it is. And I'm not a structural engineer, but what I know about the way the buildings were put together, the buildings are very sound, but they have a special foundation that can't be altered. Once the buildings are put in place, that foundation is very critical to not be touched. And so with that in mind, the traditional way of approaching a food service project by doing saw cutting into the foundation, laying new plumbing lines and that type of thing was not possible. And along with that, putting in a new gas line into this project was not possible as well. So with those two elements in place, a lot of the normal things that we look at in a food service project, we couldn't do. So we kind of had to approach this project from a fresh perspective.
And so that brings us to the next thing, which was you couldn't do gas in this project. So you had to go all electric, which is in this book is at least two of the projects I know of that went all electric now. Of course, both of them being in California, where it's becoming the new norm. What kind of issues did you run into with that, or were there any challenges for you with designing this since you knew you had to go all electric?
Yeah, so as we kind of worked through the project with some really good MEP consultants on this, electrical, plumbing, and mechanical folks, the decision was made by the electrical consultant engineer that we probably needed to go electric. And with that in mind, then we had to focus on how we're going to make that work. One of the big things that took place with electrical was the fact that we had to find place for the electrical infrastructure. And unfortunately, that didn't go in the front of house, it went in the back of house. And so unfortunate for me is that took up a lot of space in the back area. A lot of panels had to be put in. So a lot of the valuable space that we would normally use for equipment or other factors now became home to electrical panels. And anyone that knows the code knows that we have to stay certain distance away from panels, both in front and on the side. So that did impact our project a little bit. The other thing that came into play with that was the fact that the engineer recommended that we go 480 volts with all equipment. And that was to maximize the electrical infrastructure that they were putting into the project. So a little unusual for me. 280, 240 is, kind of a norm that we do, but 480 was a little unusual. So all of the products that we put into this project were designated 480 volts. And luckily the manufacturers had that covered. And so worked kind of seamlessly with that, but a little unusual from that perspective for this type of a project. The other factor on that was the fact that the Bon Appetit, the person that, or the firm that was going to be the operator of this cafe, had never had good luck with an electrical appliance griddle, if you will. So we had to go out and find them a griddle that they would be happy with. And so that was another challenge on the project.
And how did you do about that? Or how did you go about finding a new griddle for him? Did you take him around to shows? Did you just do a lot of research and give him ideas, or?
Well, one of my favorite restaurants in California is In-N-Out Burger, and they, knowing the volume that they do, and knowing just how they operate, and I know the quality of their food, they use an AccuTemp steam griddle, if you will. For most of their California projects. And so I talked to the AccuTemp rep, and we kind of decided that hey, this might be a really good opportunity to put that type of a griddle into this project. High volume, even heating, even temperature issues. So I think that was the right choice for this project. So by, going to In-N-Out Burger, I really kind of solved the problem for the Hollo Café.
Who knew that fast food would actually come back to be the savior at some point in your career?
Well, it worked great. I could go there, do my research, and then hopefully make the client happy in the process.
Well, being from Illinois, I don't get to go to In-N-Out Burger a lot. So next time you need to research at In-N-Out, please give me a call. I'll come out, get a double with extra crispy fries, and I'll be very happy to help you out with that. So, one of the other pieces of machines that you had to use, I don't mind it animal style, but I'm still kind of a simple burger guy with just cheese, pickle, ketchup, mustard. I'm good. I don't get too hung up on. I will eat it animal style, though. I would certainly not complain. Plus, their secret menu is pretty amazing. Going into, you talked a little bit about the new griddle and how that was a big thing for them because they'd never had any success with it. You also had to find a new espresso machine to accommodate a large volume of drinks. So how did you go about finding that, and how did you work with them, or was it just something you already knew of?
Yeah, it's something I generally would, there was a good rep firm in the Bay Area that they provide really good instruction on these units. They have some good background information. And so that was kind of my first source with sourcing that espresso unit for the project. We ended up with a 3-group unit to keep up with the volume, semi-automatic, and haven't heard any complaints on that. So I'm thinking it's doing the job for them. The other thing about the espresso issue there was the former. This project was a former restaurant, and they had a really nicely designed espresso setup already in place. Stainless steel drawers, all set up for a really nice espresso operation. So one of my tasks here was to convince everybody that we should keep that espresso setup, all the stainless steel and everything else, it would have been a really expensive item to have to replace. And so that was one of the kind of the great things. The architect was nice enough to keep that espresso where it was, and we were able to work with that espresso infrastructure to make that that older espresso bar new and suitable for the Hollo Café project.
Very, very nice. I love when you can still reuse what's already there. Like you said, not only is it, a little friendlier to the environment, but it also, it saves the client a lot of money at the very end too. Was there any other technical innovations or considerations you had to do that were included that we haven't talked about? Obviously, the espresso machine, the griddle. Was there anything else that surprised you that you were able to solve for them?
Well, one of the big issues on this project had to do with, we're back to our foundation and our structural issues and what we could and could not do. One of the big things, and I'm not going to take necessarily all the credit for this, we'll take some credit, but our plumbing consultant on this was really creative as well in trying to make this work. And the issue was we had a lateral sewer line that was in place under the slab and could not be moved. And we had two floor sinks, and anyone that knows food service knows that floor sinks are one of the things that we have to deal with and make work for a lot of projects. So one of the innovation things here was really on the plumbing engineer, who was able to make that plumbing system work. We all had to be conscious of location, of drainage and everything else. But the big thing was the fact that what we would normally do in a project like this in California with a dish machine and all of that, we would have what we call a grease interceptor, which is a big tank that we put outside the building for taking care of any kind of grease issues that are developed in the restaurant. In this case, we couldn't put the interceptor in, so we had to use a series of smaller grease traps throughout the project. And so from a food service design standpoint, we had to be able to accommodate the locations of those. But more significantly, from a plumbing standpoint, the plumbing engineer had to make those work, function, and also be in a location where they could be cleaned on a regular basis. So it was a real challenge. And I would call that a technical challenge for this particular project.
Yeah. So the ceiling was created by Carolina Glinka from Habitek, and it looks amazing in the picture. So tell us your thoughts about seeing that lighting and ceiling design in person.
Yeah, it's quite spectacular. The pictures maybe don't even give it credit. When you're out there looking at it, you really get a feel for what Carolina was going for. And it's even better in person, I guess, is my real comment on that. And it was interesting listening to I've given credit here to the electrical contractor, but he had to come up and make that all work. He had to put that together, hang it, make sure it met all the code issues, make sure it met all the safety issues. And so it was a feat, but really well suited for the project, and really put a feather in the cap for Carolina and Habitek on this particular project.
Yeah, I really hope our listeners go out and take a look at this publication online, because the pictures, like I said, I'm sure they don't do it justice, but I will say the pictures look amazing as well. And I can only imagine what it's like in person.
Also on that way, the project won a AIA award as well for that very reason. So that was another feather in Carolina's cap, and we all got some credit with that from American Institute of Architects.
Oh, very nice. It's great to see that selected then. Again, it's beautiful in the pictures. Peter, you've done a lot of projects in your career, and I know that you've been working on a new little personal project as well. Are you at a point in that project where you can let us in on the secret of what you've been working on recently?
Yeah, sure. I've been, when I first got started in this industry, working with clients. A lot of clients that have experience in the food service industry. That's one type of client. But, a certain type of client will come in. They want to be in the restaurant business, or they want to be in the food service hospitality business. They never have done it. And they really come in and they don't have an idea what the process is all about. And so as I kind of went through my career, I kind of said, there should be some sort of a guide or some sort of something out there that can help these folks understand what they're getting themselves into. If for no other reason to say, maybe this isn't for me. Maybe there's more to this than I realized. And so what happened was I kind of put some things together and started working on what I would call a book project. And that's been ongoing for a number of years. And finally, I've kind of got to the point where I'm getting really close to having this book put together and
very nice.
Putting it, going to the next step on it.
And do you have any idea when that might be available to everybody?
In working with the publisher, I'm a couple of weeks away from the final version of this, and then I'm going to make some decisions as on distribution and that type of thing with it. So, I'm hoping that depending on how it goes, I'm hoping that people that are contemplating going into the industry, if they were to read that, they'll certainly come out maybe with not all the answers, but they'll have some of their questions answered by reading that book.
Yeah, it can be very overwhelming to get into the restaurant industry, and if you don't know what you're getting into, which a lot of people don't, it can be incredibly overwhelming and incredibly expensive if you do it the wrong way. So I'm sure this book will be a great resource for them. How can the public find out more about you?
Christensen Consultants is the firm name. And so you can look up some of the projects. And then I'm teaming up with Julio Espinosa. Kitchen Architecture is the name of his firm. And I'm kind of, getting more into working with him, and he's going to be carrying the torch here as we move forward.
Perfect. Well, I encourage everybody to go out and take a look at Peter's work, and hopefully we'll have more information here in the next few weeks. And maybe by the time this episode airs, we can actually put some information about the book and where to find the book too. So that's it. That's all the questions I got for you today, Peter. I really appreciate you taking the time to come and visit with me and tell us more about your project at the Hollo Café.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for asking me. Some projects, there's some projects that go one way. This project, everything was kind of loaded on the good side. Good clients, good architect, good consultants, actually good health department and good city to work with. So everything was working well. So, and the general contractor was great as well. Very communicative and made this project go well.
Thank you for joining us for this edition of the Art of Culinary Spaces. We hope this conversation has sparked your creativity and inspired new ideas within the world of food service design and planning. Make sure to hit that like and subscribe button so you don't miss out on all of our future podcasts. Stay tuned for our next episode when we explore another groundbreaking project and exceptional design from FCSI members that are transforming the culinary landscape.